Jess versus Hawke is an interesting matchup. On land battle, they're both equal. Both Jess and Hawke have 10% increased firepower in all land units. Both their artillery is the same. Both their tanks are the same. Both their recons, medium tanks, everything on land is the same. It's Hawke just has the advantage when it comes to infantry, mechs, aerial, and naval units. But that doesn't exactly give him a complete edge over this. And what gives Hawke an edge is Black Storm. Global damage Jess can't deal with very, very well. Not as much as Max, but Max is a stronger CO than Jess, so he's able to deal with it somewhat better because of that. Jess struggles quite a bit against Drake, Olaf, and Hawke. Hawke more so, because Hawke has the Andy effect. You have to kill off his opponents. You can't just leave them at low health. You have to kill them off, otherwise they'll end up healing. Granted, it's only 2, but your entire force will also take a 20% deficit as well. So it's a 40% swing at that point. And Hawke can also do the same thing that Andy does. When his super is ready, he can just go ahead and attack, and then after his attack is done, when all his troops are damaged, he can just use Black Storm and heal up all his troops right then and there. So it's not easy for Jess to deal with Hawke, but in terms of just troops, they're nearly equal. So, and the one good thing about Jess is whenever she pops her powers, all her units get their fuel and ammo resupplied, so she can keep going against Hawke. It's just, will she have the manpower to actually be able to do that? So this map is Seashell Ocarina. You have your 2 contested cities within the middle, sometimes 4 contested cities, depends on if your opponent will go into the middle at first. And it's a 3 base map. 2 of them are in the middle and 1 is off to the side, with Green Earth being on the top left and Teal Galaxy being on the bottom right. And you want to try to get that, and it's always the base in the middle, like in between the 2 bases, that is the neutral property. So you want your infantry to go ahead and get a boost from the Black Boat and get that property. But SP doesn't exactly do that. He goes for the city first instead of getting the base, which I'm going to be getting the base immediately afterwards. So I'll have 2 more troops more than him in the beginning, and that's not the best. And he also opens up with early recon as well, which recons on this map is actually fairly good because they can lock down this area fairly easily with the comm tower. Comm tower is actually in, it may not look like it, but the comm tower is actually in a contested territory as well, as both sides have equal, it's equal range of both sides to get to it. But vehicles, on the other hand, it'll take Green Earth a bit more time to get to the comm tower on the right than Teal Galaxy on the bottom, and same vice versa. Yeah, so SPP is already getting his recon down south, so giving him the choice of which one to attack. And opening up a tank. Tank is always a really good response to a recon. And he chose to go for the one on the very top, which is good. And he's going to follow that up with a tank as well. And both sides seem to be doing near equal on income. He's a little bit ahead. And that's just the one thing that... Here's one thing that confused me. If it was a fog match, I would somewhat get capturing the lab. Capturing a lab when there's HQs on the map, it doesn't do anything for you. Like, you won't get any benefit from capturing a lab at all. It's not going to heal your units. It's not Like, it's 3 defense stars, but it's not going to do anything for you. It's not going to give you anything. It's not going to give you any funds, no increase in firepower. There's no reason to capture labs in the Global League game. Unless if there's no HQs, then they're already going to be like your own HQ. So this infantry should be going over here and capturing these 2 cities. But it's not. It's a nice shot of that. I do wish that he brought back this recon instead of just allowing my tank to get a really good shot off of it. Because like I said, Jess and Hawke are tied when it comes to like ground force. Like they're the same. And as soon as Jess gets this comm tower, then Jess and Hawke will nearly be equal when it comes to infantry. It's just when Hawke gets that comm tower himself that changes a little bit. 100% firepower, 110% firepower isn't that different. It's just when you get to 120%, that's the coveted one. And here, I don't like this engagement either. 6 to 7. I don't like this engagement. Like, it's not my city, but don't engage units when they're on cities. Not unless if you don't have anything to back them up. And which he does have some backup, but I'm also bringing in tank myself. And since he bought artillery over here, he's not going to be backing up that second tank. If this was a continuous tank chain, then I would see some merit in this. But you'll be sinking a lot of funds onto this side. A lot of troops, a lot of time, a lot of money. Whereas over here, I can sink like a recon over here and just completely annihilate this side with the recon. So pull back this tank, make sure it's not over here. And okay, good. Capture that city while also trying to keep a front over here so that this city isn't completely abandoned. And transport copter. Transport copter is actually needed on this map because you see over here on these 2 tiny little islands, there's a harbor over here which isn't going to do a whole lot for you, but there's another comm tower. Yes, there's 4 comm towers on this map, so Jess can get 130% firepower on all her vehicles. Same with Hawke. And artillery over here, and he stops reinforcing this side, which isn't the best. And since he's taking the fight over here, I'm going to go ahead and match him at this point. But I also don't have a response to this tank or this artillery. I have this tank, which if I send it down south, then I'm conceding this ground, which is not good. And again, too, don't take engagements when... Okay, I'll give this one a pass. It's 20% versus 30%. That's not too different in terms of defense. I'll give that one a pass. And he's sending this tank over up north, which is a godsend for me. And so he moves his artillery over here, but there is a blind spot over here, so I am able to pick off this infantry right here. And that tank is going to take position up north. And this is what happens when you engage on tanks on cities. You injure that tank is going to pull back to allied city, and then a fresh, healthy tank is going to come right in. And I don't want Hawke to get that comm tower. Are you kidding me? Get that transport copter. Okay, good, 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 good. And SVP is also getting his transport copter. He's also going to go for that comm tower. Because, well, these two comm towers are contested. The ones down the islands are not. That one is your comm tower and only your comm tower. And he's doing another artillery. So I think the one artillery here is good. I do like that one. Two, I think is a little bit too much when you only have infantry backing it up. Yeah, so forming a wall, but it's not a perfect wall. He can go right around it. Yeah, and I'm basically serving up a little bit of infantry for him right here. These two, which I think he does end up firing. And And decent kill there, but once again, you're giving me like a good vantage point here to just fire upon within the city. But he is cleaning up my forces down there in south, and that's not good considering I don't have anything up north yet. And he does interrupt that comm tower. And he brings out anti-air, which this one puzzled me a little bit. I think it's not a bad move because battlecopters, typically they'll go like, for Teal Galaxy, typically battlecopters will go towards the west, and then I have a choice of either harassing ground units over here or going towards the middle. So anti-air is not a bad choice. However, what this allows me to do is get a battlecopter and then move it east, and I'll force him to buy an anti-air over there. And basically just get a free shot over here. This is why I didn't like the second artillery, because it's not doing a whole lot. So I got 110%. Not 110. I got 100% on my infantry now. My infantry are completely fine now. And Hawke is slowly starting to get his comm tower within 2 more turns. But I would have liked this to be another tank, because then I wouldn't be able to be as aggressive as I was with that tank right then and there. Fortifying position. Wait. Okay, so this infantry here. Yes, I have an infantry right here, and now I also have 2 tanks, but you have 4 tanks within the area. This infantry should be going here, or over here. Or it should be capping the comm tower. And you have 2 infantry over here. Did either of them move? No, neither of those 2 infantry moved. No matter what, I can't reach the comm tower. I do have my power, which, yes, it will allow me to reach the comm tower, but I'm not going to use my power just to deny someone a comm tower. I'm not going to do that. He's already getting a comm tower over here. He's going to get the 20. He's going to get that 20% firepower no matter what I do. It's not worth it for me to just use my power to interrupt this. So this infantry should have been going for the comm tower, and this infantry should have been going for this property or this property. Like I would say this property, because it would force me to bring this infantry down here and interrupt it, because that is my city, and it will force my tanks to come in at that point. But seeing that this is somewhat of a losing battle, I'm going to go ahead and bring my tanks within the middle. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tanks in the middle, and I have turbocharge ready. Yeah, this is not going to be pretty. And then I go ahead and buy 2 anti-air. One to cover the east side and another to cover the west side. So that and anti-air is a really good way to get infantry out of your way. Because tanks won't do the job sometimes, depending on where they're at. And again, the lab. There's no reason why this infantry should be capping this comm tower, and this infantry should be capping this city. I gave up this city. You should be punishing me for that and immediately going down here and capturing it. And since I have 8 vehicles all in the middle, 9 if you're going to count the one down here, which you might as well, it's going to be able to reach with turbocharge. Yeah, so suddenly I have 9 vehicles in the middle, and Jess's power only works on vehicles. All these vehicles have 130% power now. Infantry is dead. Artillery is dead. It did nothing. That infantry is dead. That artillery is essentially crumbled. Infantry is dead. Infantry. That infantry came in and took down the artillery. Artillery did nothing that turn. So 12k has gone, and you fired on 1 infantry. So 1 artillery has fired on. It's fired on something that was worth 1k. So you have spent 12k to deal with 1k of my troops. That's not a good trade. And 2 tanks come in, and there you go. And suddenly, all that's left in the middle that would be a threat to me is a tank in the base and a battlecopter. Which this battlecopter is not going to be able to do anything because there's anti-air right here. There's 2. Never mind. There's 2 anti-air. And seeing that I have a clear hold in the middle, and it's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. Artillery, this is a perfect time to start building artillery. You want to build artillery when you have a good wall. When you're in an area to where you can afford to sit there. This is one of those times. Artillery is fantastic for it. Not in the very beginning when you don't have like a good semblance of a wall. And this tank is going up north, and medium tank. Okay, I like that. I like that a lot. I don't like that he pulled this battlecopter. Not battlecopter. Battlecopter is over here. I don't like that he pulled this transport back. Because he's leaving an infantry over in the islands, and that's... And yes, it did earn itself in, but it could do a little bit more. Utilize all your troops to their full capacity. And I don't have a... And he has a scary force coming. He's got artillery down here. So, artillery, when they're not contested, they can just keep on moving, and he is within distance to base lock me. Already, it's only day 14. I have focused all my attention in the middle. And if you forego the sides, you're in trouble. But I do have that second calm tower. Finally. Meanwhile, Hawke only has the one, when he should be having both of them. So suddenly, my ground force is looking a lot more dangerous. I'm going to go ahead and pull back to where the point where this medium tank can only hit this tank or anything else. But what this medium tank should be doing is going and interrupting these two. It shouldn't be doing that. It should be other stuff doing it. But considering that there's nothing else in the middle that can actually do so, like this tank can't do it. It has to, like, it's being blocked by my tank. So, and there's no infantry around, and a mech. What is a mech going to do in this case? I don't like mech purchases as defensive play. With mechs, they're super duper slow. If you're Sami or Sensei or even Lash, okay, that I can see a good use for a mech. Especially over here, because this is actually a good spot for Lash to utilize mechs. It's like there's 4 areas, 5 if you count this city, 5 areas that have 3 terrain stars, and then another 3 that has 4 terrain stars, and then you also have 3 forests here. This is a really good spot for Lash to utilize mechs. Anyone else though? No. So I do not like this mech purchase at all. He's going to capture the harbor, and he does indeed get that tank. Good. And what is this infantry? This is aggravating me, like, a whole lot. It is aggravating me, like, a lot, seeing what these two infantry are doing. He does indeed base lock me with his artillery, which is good. That's a good thing. But he should have this comm tower by now. He's got 3 infantry down here now. Granted, one of them was in the transport copter, but this comm tower should be his right now. Not this lab. Notice that I'm completely ignored the lab. And even though he has 1 over on this side, there are way too many troops on this side. Way too many attacking units. 3 of these tanks, maybe even 4 of these tanks. Actually, no. 3 of these tanks should be going towards the middle right now. There's no reason why, like, 3 of these tanks should be over here. The anti-air, yes, I get, because the airport is right here. You want to get an airport lock. And then the artillery, this is a fantastic place for artillery. It is. So these 2 I get. 1 tank to cover them. That's also good. 3 other tanks, they need to be in the middle. And since I'm not technically airport locked, I'm going to go ahead and get 1 last battlecopter before they become bad for me. And you see me starting to gear up for Black Storm. I think this is I think this is actually the reason why I struggle so much against global damage COs. I always see they're super charged up, and I immediately gun it for properties that'll heal my troops. And that takes 20% of every single unit that is on a property, and that takes away like what you're able to get. So I think that's the reason why I struggle so much against it, because I don't have a whole lot of money left over. So 5600, and let's see. And I don't think he uses it, actually. And I am indeed airport locked now. Yeah, he doesn't use Black Storm. I'm going to use turbocharge, though. Because I see a medium tank over here, ready to be killed. And I see plenty of other units over here that are also ready to be killed. And the battlecopter. And I get to base lock his side now. The only difference is I can still build infantry down here. Yes, they're going to get fired upon each round, but he can't do anything against this. And never count anti-air out in fights. Anti-air is more than capable of picking off tanks when they're low health. And I go ahead and return the favor. I also base lock him. But unlike him, I also have infantry at the rate. This exact infantry that was down here capturing this island. And do I get it? I don't get it. I was so upset by this. 3 turbocharged tanks in a battlecopter. I really wish that I ended up getting that. Well, but seeing as he's starting to tech up, I'm going to go ahead and start teching up myself. And he's capturing one of my properties. He's finally getting the comm tower. Better late than never, but that comm tower should have been taken over like 10 turns ago. Like, this comm tower should have been taken over before I got mine. Because there was no competition over on that side. And I do believe he finally uses Black Storm. Yes! 1,200, like 120k goes down to 96k. And he goes from 96k actually, to 102k. Mainly because of his medium tank. Never count global damage out. Especially Hawks. Never count Hawks global damage out. Yeah, so now he's got 110, 20, 30. He's got 140 firepower on everything now. His units are more than capable of picking mine off. But my units are just as powerful. And I don't know what you want me to say. Never, ever, ever build a single aerial unit when anti-air are within reach. Never. And even though my units are damaged, I'm still taking the fight to him. And this infantry decided to get a little happy and do nothing to his pipe scene. Lash will be a very, very happy person for seeing that her pipe scenes are holding on. And I have to ask, what are these troops doing down here? They're not doing anything. The one tank the anti-air and the artillery, and a handful of infantry, like these 2 infantry, these should be the only things down here. These 3 tanks, these 2 infantry, and this one this one transport copter with the infantry should be up here defending your base. But they have been down here this entire time. So I know I said I didn't like the mech purchase, but the mech actually did knock out a tank. So I will give him that. And now he's starting to get into a small panic because I am capturing one of his bases. And typically this would be game ending, but look at his position. He's also getting ready to be in the process of capturing my base. But I am not finished yet. I am out for blood. I see victory, and I take victory. And he put his medium tank within range of mine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. Don't do that. Don't do that. If I had a Neo tank, it'll be a different story, as medium tanks typically they can't outrun Neo tanks. But medium tanks can go just as far as medium tanks. I don't think that is common knowledge. And you should protect your medium tanks, because if those fall and those are the main line of your defense, you're not going to have a defense left. What push? I think I'll go ahead and start getting that airport. And it's not as strong. It's not a strong turbocharge, but it does cripple one of his medium tanks, which is exactly what I needed at that point. Because he doesn't have anything to back up this medium tank. He's got 2 tanks, one of them's at 5, but he built in artillery here. And that artillery isn't going to do like a whole lot. Because it has to move. So no matter what it does, it's not going to be able to do a single thing. I don't care where that artillery goes, because it's not a threat to me until the next turn. It's not going to be able to fire upon it. And if he did fire on this tank, that'll be one less troop I have to worry about. Like, build artillery? Like, unless if you're Grit and maybe Jake. Unless if you're Grit and maybe Jake, don't build artillery when there are people knocking on your base. Because at that point, you need to start getting defensive units. And defensive units, those are your medium tanks, those are your regular tanks, those are, in some cases, in some COs, those are your mechs. Like, those are your defensive ones. Artillery and rockets and missiles, those are when you're sitting comfortably and you have the time to actually form a proper wall. Not now. And that's what I mean. Buy a medium tank. That is what you need in that situation. And seeing as I am winning up here on the top, I can actually afford to harass down here a little bit. 4 tanks taking on his 4 tanks, and suddenly it becomes 2. So this is why I said that these tanks would serve better in being up north. And the 1 HP tank did it! Yeah, because that artillery did nothing. And I'm just going back to freaking Neotank, like in his base. I mean, so yes, this did become his base, but I still harassed plenty of his troops. Thank goodness, that tank is strong. And Black Storm is also ready. He should have used it. He should have used it. In this scenario, when it comes to global damage, you do not have the time. Like, yes, we are even in troop count. Well, no, I have more of a troop count. He has more of... He's got more of a, what you call it? Of a troop value because of those 2 medium tanks. Well, no, because some of my troops are injured. That's the actual reason why. And I would say that we have income lead, but I'm about to take away 2 of his properties. With his airport and this city over here. It's going to get taken over this turn. So it's a 16-20 match, favoring Jess. And this is the time when you use Black Storm. You do not have the time to sit there and words. You don't have the time to sit there and hold on to your Black Storm. You don't. Because you're facing up against a CO that tends to be on the aggressive side. You want to be using Black Storm whenever you get it at this point, because my units are right outside your main base. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 infantry surrounding your HQ. I have another infantry. Well, and one of those infantry is right outside of your middle base. And it would be different if all my troops were up north, but they're not. I have 4 tanks down in the south dealing with SPP's force down there to make sure that nothing happens down here. I have a base up north. This one base is all I need to deal with these 2 bases. Purely just because of that Neo tank. And trapping this tank in, it's not going to be able to do much. I half-heartedly trapped this medium tank in. It's not going to do too much either. So, I would have loved to see Black Storm come out the turn before. I would have. I do get why he didn't, because his Neo Tank would have been healed up all the way back to 10, but that would have been so much of my funds drained. That one unit would have cost me 4,400 funds just from that one Neo Tank. And that's not including every other unit that I had on base. And he's still continuing to get medium tanks, but he base skipped. And look at what I have over here. I have a lovely transport copter that has been dying to be useful. And there you go. And considering that he doesn't have the anti-air up here, I'm going to get a battlecopter. And I'm also going to go ahead and trap that medium tank with infantry. And making sure that this infantry can't take on this one here. I'll make sure about that. And then, once again, base lock. And I build artillery over here. He only has 2 bases now to build units out of. This transport copter, it'll earn itself in by capturing this island, because 10% firepower from get on this map from the transport copter is very much needed. Like, it's only 5k get to the transport copter. So 9 times out of 10, you are going to see people get it. And this harbor over here will ensure that the transport copter earned itself in. This transport copter right here has earned itself in numerous times over just because it's blocking a base. And he does manage to break the medium tank out, which good for him. But he bought another medium tank. This was a bad move. He should not have built that medium tank in the base that is currently being base locked. If it was down here on the south, that would have been so much more threatening. Like a million times more threatening. And I do get it. His HQ is right here. It's not down here. It's right here. But you want to try to force me to go. But once this area is base locked, you're done. Like, you are completely done building expensive troops there. Because that artillery is... Okay, well, that was a battlecopter. But that artillery is going to hurt it a lot. And just this one shot has already earned the artillery head. Because artillery is 6k. Medium tanks are 16k, and it did 4 damage. I'm pretty sure that is actually 6k. I'm pretty sure about that. Hang on. Yeah. That is 6k. 6,400 to be exact. That one shot immediately earned itself in. So, whenever your base is locked like that, like, if you're going to build something there, build infantry. Not mechs, infantry. Not medium tanks. Infantry. Because if you've been paying attention to down here when this was my base, I've built only infantry as soon as that base got base locked. To a point where I'm not going to make it super duper easy for SPP to get that base. But now I do actually base lock him. And he's got nothing left in the... He has nothing left in the north now. And then I'm immediately just going to go to my properties and just defend them. He hasn't been able to push at all down in the south. Because I've had a healthy balance of harassing him down the south after my base fell, and harassing up in the north, helping the units up there. I've had a healthy balance of that. And now that this artillery is suddenly out of place, I can go ahead and start harassing his units down south. Making sure that he is going nowhere near his HQ or my HQ. And being sure to cripple, like, whatever small force he has left. He only has 7 troops down here. He may have 9, but one of them is a black boat, and one of them is just over here in the Bahamas. It's not going to do anything. And the one final power. And he bought a black boat for this one infantry. I actually found that pretty funny. And the GG missiles. Do a little bit of cleanup. Yep, and then captured the HQ right then and there. He did play in the beginning. SPP fell into noob traps. You play as a powerful CO, and you let that power get to your head, thinking that you're somewhat invincible. You're more powerful than the CO that you see against you. You're going to take those bad engagements because you can't do anything. The problem with that is, said CO it has just as good as a ground game as you do. Jess has 110% in all her tanks, all her artillery, all her anti-air, every single vehicle. Jess has 110%. Hawke has 110% in everything. But infantry engagements, they're only going to be on the sides. And in this particular game, infantry engagements weren't the biggest thing. Because in the beginning, we kept fighting down on the western side with vehicles. And yes, there were infantry engagements. There were. But when Jess gets one comm tower, her infantry are just as good as Hawke's. Because 110% isn't a big difference compared to 100%. Like, you still can't engage with... You still can't get that guaranteed 2-hit kill on cities. And don't even think about trying to do HQs or mountains. It's not going to happen. there were a few times, like, in the beginning, I do think his capture game on the West could have been a lot stronger. Even on East as well. Because even now you're seeing that I left his lab alone. Because in this game, in Global League, when there's HQs, labs are meaningless. There's no point in getting the labs. That's just wasting time on your inventory when they could be going for one of these 3 cities, or even his comm tower instead. There are 4 other places here surrounding this lab. If you have an infantry here, then they should be over in one of these 4 locations. And the fact that he took 10 extra turns to get like the comm tower within the main area, and there was no competition from me either. My troops were down here. There was no way for me to interrupt him down here for getting this comm tower, and yet he left his infantry alone. They didn't do anything that turn, and when they did, they moved away from the comm tower. They got these first before the infantry got these first before this comm tower got captured, and that is no. There's no reason for that. Hawke is one of the COs that wants a comm tower right then and there, because they get that, as he gets that coveted 120%. Same with Jess. That is the entire reason why I gunned it towards my comm towers, because I want that 120%. And if I can't have the one up here, then I'm going to get the one down here. And that should be the exact same thing that Hawke is wanting. If he can't get this one, then he's going to get the one at Island. But he had no competition. He should have had 130 firepower right then and there with a snap of the fingers, but he didn't. So I think his capture game could be a lot stronger during that part. The recon down there, like, good for harassment, but don't finish off the troop if there is a tank nearby, because that recon, it costs 4k and infantry only costs 1000. Like, and this is why I don't like building recons in standard matches. They get outclassed by tanks super duper easily. Like, and they move on wheels. Like, they're not the best with movement. On this map they are, because look at straight line right here with roads. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they can and get away from tanks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, they can get away from tanks at that point. Especially if the tank isn't close to recon before. Don't finish off a troop, and don't let that recon die if you're going to build it. That's just wasting money in the beginning, when you could just use it for another tank. And if you see tanks parked on cities, don't engage with them. Just don't. Especially if you're going to do it from up lanes. Forests? Okay, I can see that one. Especially when the city isn't owned by the person that you're attacking. So I can see that one. Like, 20% defense isn't, like, it's not as different as 30% defense. But on planes, the tank will never win. It will always be the one on the city. Especially if those tanks are the exact same with their firepower. And I really did not like this force down here. I did not. I genuinely do think 3 tanks down here, like these 3 extra tanks, have overstayed their welcome. As soon as this artillery was in position, one of these tanks can stay to protect this anti-air and this artillery, These other three need to go back up north and start defending up here. Because you know that I'm getting aggressive up here. You know that I'm starting to take over the northeast. And you also know that in tandem with taking over northeast, I'm going to be going for your easternmost base as well. These three should be gunning up here. And once again, don't build aerial units when there's an anti-air right there. SPP had a bad habit of building units when he shouldn't. Like, his build order, it wasn't bad. It was decent, though. But once again, I do not like this artillery light pick. I don't. He should have invested in something else. Because I immediately, get that artillery right then and there. So I did not like that artillery build at all. It had no chance to earn itself in. And right here, actually. Black Storm should have been used right here as well. If you're behind, don't hesitate on using your super if you're a global damage CO. And this also applies to Rachel, this applies to Sturm, this applies to Von Bolt. This applies to Kindle with Urban Blight as well. If you're behind and you're a global damage CO, use your powers. Use your global damage. Now, if you're Sturm and Von Bolt and Rachel, check the move planner. Make sure the missiles and the meteors are going where you want them. Because that's another big thing. Because I can tell you exactly where that meteor will go. It'll go right here. It will go right here, and it'll completely demolish my troops. And this push was suddenly ended. Even if it's the 4 HP meteor, it still would have done a lot. An 8 HP Neotank isn't as powerful as a normal Neotank is. It would not have been able to one-shot this medium tank. Yeah. Whereas compared to full health, guaranteed knockout. So I really would have wished that he did end up using Black Storm here. I really did. It wouldn't have solved the Neotank problem, but it would have taken a lot of change from me. And it would have hurt this medium tank. It would have stopped me from getting this airport and this city. It would have done a lot. But I believe that's it for this match. Well, thank you for tuning in and seeing this analysis of this game. Hope you enjoyed.